Tell me what happened. Tell me, he paused, how it happened. She kept working the wax into the leather strappings with her thumbs, and he thought she would not answer. Our orders were to search these valleys for settlements and find a child, a male child of a certain age. That was vague enough to make me think that this was going to be another pointless patrol, sending 60 soldiers to beat bushes and shake down peasant huts for a sprat. Out here, at the edge of the border. She bent and flexed the strap as she spoke, ensuring the leather was supple. I treated it as an exercise, break in some new troops, put them through their paces, hone their endurance, speed up their making and breaking camp, scouting and formations, get them working as a team. Mundane stuff, but you have to practice the small stuff or the important stuff won't work. Inspecting the strap, she sniffed, satisfied, put it aside and picked up another. It worked well enough for the first couple of settlements. They got better as we went. Their fitness improved. They could make and break camp in good time. They scouted and approached well, positioned themselves to cut off any runners and rounded up the folk smooth enough. And they were patient and kind, no unnecessary aggression. A long pause. She sat and worked in silence. "So, what happened?" he asked. She sighed. "We got tired. Tired, then bored, then sloppy." She began assembling buckles, threading the straps and cords. We didn't find any male child of a certain age. We'd march, set up, search, camp, repeat, day after day, week after week. Little things at first, like arguments, then some fights among the men, a few cases of ill discipline. The village before yours, a few of the new men helped themselves to village stuff. Petty thievery, but that behavior is a rot, Got to knock it out quick. She looked across at him. "You sure you want to hear this?" He nodded. They had not talked together for some days after her revelation of responsibility. Her hands continued working, although her gaze was looking at something far away. I remember my armor had rubbed a raw patch under my arm and I was as irritated as hells. No matter how much I had oiled and waxed and worked it, it still didn't sit right. This valley was good ground. The scouts had returned with news of the settlement, and I was checking it out myself. I remember thinking that I could put horsemen in that loose stand of trees there, while I placed my bowmen on that higher ground, and creep the rest up from behind that rise, just working a problem of terrain. I gave a nod to my seniors and we got to work. There was some grumbling, but we'd done this maybe 20 times before. They set the screen for any runners and set the others to work the flanks. They entered the edges of the village, just like they always had, and just like always, the villagers allowed themselves to be herded into the center. I was up on the slope over there watching it play out. Here she stopped and shook her head, then continued. For some reason, one of my men struck a villager. Maybe the man hesitated. Maybe he mouthed off. Maybe my soldier simply wanted someone smaller than himself to feel the misery we all did. The villager turned and knocked my man down. It all went to shit so fast. A dozen fights broke out in seconds. Hoes and hammers against spears and shields. Flames leapt from huts, smoke and screams. I jumped for my horse and rode like a maniac, screaming my orders. My horsemen followed, because that was what horsemen did when their officers rode hard. We rode in, me trying to separate my men and villagers, my horsemen just riding people down. By the time I had established order, the village was ablaze and villagers were bleeding in the dirt. A few of mine were limping around with breaks and bruises, and one had had a kettle of hot water over him. I shouted myself hoarse, getting my seniors to gather their squads and to find out what had happened. Her hands had not stopped their work for this entire story, even as her gaze had not left the distance. She sniffed. "We found a couple of brats that might have been who we were looking for and took them with us. I hanged 2 men that day and had 3 others whipped. We marched back, handed over the kids, and I resigned." She stood up and looked directly at the boy. No, young man now. "Are you ready?" she asked. He nodded. She handed him the leather cuirass she'd been assembling. "You might need this. Mind that armhole, it might rub." They shouldered their packs and walked from the village in the grey light of morning. At the edge of the valley, the young man looked back. He had thought that there should be a flash of light or the sound of horns, but it was just a valley, so he turned and left.